At the beginning of the movie, 3 CIAS are spying on a short-haired female killer. This female killer was abducted by the leader of the killer group, Mrs. M, when she was 12 years old, and trained to be an elite killer. And what CIA wants to do this time is to find Mrs. M's whereabouts through the short-haired female killer. But what they didn't expect was that Mrs. M was commanding the female killer's actions through surveillance. CIA saw the female killer entering the target's room and began to flirt with the target. As the target relaxed and enjoyed herself, the female killer quickly took action and broke the target's spine. At this time, the target's cell phone rang, and the bodyguards outside the door immediately realized that something was wrong and fought with the female killer. However, the bodyguards were defeated by the female killer and were all killed in a few shots. Finally, the female killer gracefully walked out of the hotel and drove away. As a result, a black-clothed killer appeared on the balcony of the second floor. The black-clothed killer's car was a gun, and the CIA who was watching it was in a bad situation. The female killer quickly got out of the car and saved her. But in the process of fighting with the black-clothed killer, 2 CIA were killed. And Jack, who was also a CIA, went to buy coffee and ran past a group of people. But at this time, a car passed by, and Mrs. M in the car fired accurately and killed the female killer. Jack, who rushed over, fired a lot of shots at Mrs. M's car and died. At that moment, Mrs. M and her group had completely disappeared. At this time, Jack found out through an investigation that there were 40 missing girls around the world who were about 13 years old. They came from different races and had different backgrounds. The only thing that was the same was that they were all proficient in martial arts or sports. It was as if they were extinct in the human world and had nowhere to go, and the police all over the place couldn't find them. Jack guessed that every time Mrs. M lost a killer, she would train more girls to look for top killers. And Jack's guess was absolutely correct. As the camera turned, a plane landed on an island in the vast ocean. This is Mrs. M's training base. There are monitors everywhere. It is also 200 kilometers away from the nearest island. Therefore, the girl who wanted to escape either died in the sea or in the hands of the killers around her. Time flies. 6 years later, in the past few years, all the girls have to take martial arts, computer skills, learn makeup, and etiquette courses. In addition, they have to learn how to quickly hold a gun, learn human skeleton, and know how to break the spine. Mrs. M was very satisfied with these fast-growing girls. And in the process, Jack and Cassie became good friends. The two of them supported and comforted each other in the hard training. On this day, Mrs. M gave everyone a mission. And this mission was to eliminate a team of professional soldiers. Many girls thought it was like the usual training, but when they saw a man jumping off a tree and killed a girl directly, many girls knew that this was not a joke. So everyone dispersed immediately. One of the girls, named Zheng, was hanging on a tree. When the enemy was not paying attention, she slid down and broke her neck. At the same time, Jack and Cassie helped to kill their opponents. At night, the girls were getting ready to sleep in the dormitory. Mrs. M suddenly appeared in the dormitory with a machine gun and ordered everyone to kill a teammate within 2 minutes. Otherwise, everyone would die in 2 minutes. All the girls thought that Mrs. M's words were unbelievable. They had been living together for 6 years, but they also knew that Mrs. M would keep her promise. But just before everyone could react, Zhang suddenly killed a teammate. With another leader, everyone started attacking their partners who were getting along with each other. In order to survive, the girls didn't wear socks and opened their arms with bare feet. The dormitory was silent for a while. Suddenly, there was a bloodbath. It was unbearable. After 2 minutes, only a dozen girls survived, and there was a corpse of a teammate around them. Then, Mrs. M told everyone a more cruel news. That is, tomorrow everyone will have a life and death duel, and in the end, only one person can survive. That's it. More than 10 girls were worried after that night. On the second day, Mrs. M announced the rules of the game to everyone. First, everyone needs to draw lots to decide the order of entry. Number 1 to number 2. The survivors will deal with number 3 and number 4. The survivors will deal with number 5, number 6, and number 7, and so on, until the last person is eliminated. That is to say, the earlier the people who enter the game want to survive, the more difficult it is. This duel not only requires everyone to have high fighting skills, but also needs good luck. Haixin's luck is not so good. She got number 1. and Haiyao got number 10. Haixin accepted fate at this time and comforted each other with Haiyao. But Haiyao took the opportunity to attack Haixin and took away her number 1 sign. Haiyao entered the battlefield and started to fight with number 2. In the past 6 years of training, Haixin, Haiyao, and the 3 of them have always been the best in the team. Not long after the duel, number 2, who fought with Haiyao, was defeated. In this, it's time for number 5, number 6, and number 7 to enter the game. At this time, Haiyao's physical strength is obviously not as good as it was at the beginning. As for the 3 people she has been fighting against, she has to slow down her speed. The longer the fight, the lower her chance of winning. At this moment, Haiyao is always on the attack and does not give the opponent time to react. In the end, she successfully killed 3 people and took the opportunity to breathe heavily on the ground while others were on the battlefield. At this time, Haiyao was about to reach the limit. This time, it's number 8, number 9, number 10, and number 11's turn to fight. Fortunately, Haixin was holding Haiyao in these 4 people. The situation on the battlefield was also changed from 1-on-4 to 2-on-3. And the girl, Zheng, was also one of the 4. Before everyone was beaten, suddenly the girl next to Zheng was too noisy, so she killed him first. The battle instantly became 2-on-2. After discussing with Haixin, Haiyao decided to have Zheng fight against Haixin. Haiyao, who was in a good condition, fought against another weaker one. Haiyao quickly solved the problem. Haixin and Zheng fought hard on the other side. In the end, Zheng took the lead. Haiyao rushed over to help, but was dumped by Zheng. When Zheng was about to kill the 2 people, Mrs. M next to him stopped. She was very satisfied with the 3 people left by Haiyao, so she left the 3 of them at the same time. After the continuous battles, Haiyao, Zheng, and Haixin, who were left behind, and Mrs. M had a drink together. At the table, Mrs. M asked the 3 people about the year of the red wine. The 3 people didn't want to have it, but they didn't want to have medicine in the wine, so they used all their magic power. At this time, a number of men rushed out from behind Mrs. M. Mrs. M, who was originally paranoid, thought that if she wanted to be an excellent killer, she had to destroy her evil heart first. She commanded dozens of men to rush in and humiliated the 3 helpless girls. Since then, the 3 people have become elite killers and carry out assassinations all over the world. In their hands, anything can become a killing weapon. This day, Haiyao and Haixin carried out a task of assassinating the boss of the gang. Haiyao was in charge of assassinating, and Haixin was in charge of receiving Haiyao. In front of the target, Haiyao's 5-sided waist showed his extreme woman side. And just when Haiyao was about to kill the target suddenly pulled out Haiyao and pulled out a pistol to shoot Haiyao. Suddenly, he made a noise, and the people outside rushed in immediately. Haiyao reacted quickly and pulled out the gun. He pulled out the bed sheet to block the eyes of others. He used this opportunity to break the target's spine and pass the target. Suddenly, Haiyao picked up a pistol and killed a few bodyguards. At this time, Haixin appeared in time and saved Haiyao. However, because there were so many people, Haixin and Haiyao were forced into a dilapidated room. At this time, Haixin had to smash the wall to find a way out. Finally, Haixin made Haiyao leave first. When the bodyguards rushed in, he blew up the gas pipe and caused an explosion. At the same time, the FBI soon learned of this incident. The person who took over this matter was Jack many years ago. Through the death of the target, Jack was able to determine that the person who killed the target was Mrs. M's subordinate. Fortunately, when the police were investigating, they found other people's blood on the target. Through the test, the person pointed at by the blood was Haiyao, who had been missing for many years. The scene came to Hong Kong. Haiyao's mother was praying for her daughter's safety. At this time, Jack came to the door and told Haiyao's mother that Haiyao had become a killer. Recently, Haiyao appeared in Hong Kong and hoped that he could help the police catch Haiyao. Haiyao's mother hadn't seen Haiyao for many years, and no matter what, she was Haiyao's mother. It was impossible for her to help the police catch her daughter, so she refused Jack's request. The next day, Hong Kong held a cage race. At the same time, a heavyweight will appear. This heavyweight is also Haiyao's target this time. Haiyao hid in the crowd and shot the target while the crowd was in chaos. Unexpectedly, Haiyao's mother was next to the target. Seeing someone die in front of her, she was shocked and looked in Haiyao's direction. At this moment, Haiyao's mother saw Haiyao. Although the mother and daughter hadn't seen each other for more than 2 years, the blood relationship made them recognize each other immediately. At this time, Jack, who was next to her, also locked Haiyao in the corner of Haiyao's mother's eyes. He immediately chased after her and finally found Haiyao in a truck carrying cold goods. The 2 of them held guns against each other. But as the truck moved, time passed. The 2 of them got frostbite on their bodies and faces, so they decided to take a break for the time being and hug each other to warm up. Unexpectedly, Hayao snuck up on Jack and knocked him out. When Jack woke up, he found that he was the only one left in the truck. The next day, Jack came to Hayao's mother's residence and decided to wait for him. At this time, the house suddenly shut down. Hayao's mother thought that Hayao came to look for her. Unexpectedly, Zhang appeared. It turned out that Hayao's mother was found by Mrs. M. Worried that Mrs. M would leak the secret, she sent Zhang to kill her. At this moment, Jack outside heard the noise in the house. He thought that he dropped the gun in the process of entering the house, so he had to fight with Zhang. At this moment, Hayao broke through the window and fought with Zhang. At this time, Zhang threw the box on the table out. Hayao smashed the box one by one. Zhang picked up a piece of glass and threw it at Zhang. Zhang had no place to hide, so he could only watch as the pieces pierced his skin. Finally, Hayao picked up a piece of glass and stabbed Zhang in the throat. Hayao and his mother finally met. Mrs. M was very angry after learning about Hayao's actions. She used Hayao's mother as a threat and threatened Zhang to kill her. She asked Hayao to help her complete the last task. After completing this task, Hayao and his grudges were over, and the employer of this task was a man named Longi. He claimed that he asked Mrs. M to help clean up his organization's traitor Zitian. But when Kaisen and Hayao arrived at the location, they found a trap. At this moment, on the screen next to it, a scene where Mrs. M was covered in blood was played. Turned out that there was no Zitian at all. Longi's goal was to wipe out Mrs. M's group. In order to avenge the beatings of Mrs. M, Hayao and Kaisen knew that the situation was not good and hurried to escape. During the escape, a dart suddenly shot at Hayao. Surprisingly, the dart contained a spring. Finally, during the escape, Hayao successfully jumped into the garbage truck and escaped. Kaisen was caught by Longi. Hayao, who escaped, called Zitian immediately. Zitian had already fallen in love with Hayao. When he found out that Hayao was poisoned, he helped her detoxify. But when Zitian woke up the next day, he found that there was no trace of Hayao around him. He only left a letter to Hayao asking Zitian to help take care of his mother. At the same time, Hayao came to the pier number 14 to save Kaisen. Hayao ran over and found that Kaisen was hanging on a cross like a wooden doll. It was just a thick layer of bulletproof glass between the two of them. It was up to Hayao how to shoot and how to hit. Longi still appeared behind Kaisen and killed Kaisen. Next came the scene where Hayao and Longi were one-on-one. The two of them were avengers. In the end, they chose the most primitive way to deal with the situation. After a fight, Hayao was defeated again and again. He was no match for Longi at all. Suddenly, Longi didn't want to give up. He took off Hayao's eyes. But at this time, Hayao was focused and imagined a lake around him. Hayao finally overcame Longi's attack after being shot by Longi, and he broke Longi's spine. Longi died. Hayao, who didn't know his strength, eventually fell to the ground. A few days later, Zitian came to the 1 to 4 second swing. He didn't expect to hear from the old man that Hayao had just arrived. After Zitian stopped, he was busy looking for Hayao in the crowd. And Hayao in the crowd also smiled at this moment. Maybe they had already met at this moment. If you want to express your support for us, please subscribe, like and share. See you next time. Bye-bye.